I'll be presenting about my another research on collective action and hopeful news. Okay. Okay, so I do research on cooperation because it is critical for protecting the environment. Nowadays, we see a lot of climate actions by a lot of students, a lot of citizens, collectively taking efforts. My research questions come from the news. There are many bad news. There are many news regarding pessimistic views. The world is melting down. We see a lot of tragic news on the TV and media. So many people think that this bad news actually makes people or us to be less active in protecting the environment because we feel hopelessness sometimes. So these days we are trying to deliver some good news, or maybe we'll long for some good news regarding climate crisis, right? But my question is that, so this is an example of good news. Currently, international community emphasize that humankind has successfully achieved protecting or restoring ozone layer. So as you guys probably remember, in 1980s or 1990s, there were many news about ozone layer, like destruction of ozone layer, which would harm humankind in a negative way. But actually, through the collective efforts of every citizen and consumers and probably business and government, so ozone layer is now on the pace to recover to the previous values, which is very, very good news, right? So ozone layer recovery is an environmental success story. So that's one of the example of how we are eager to hear some good news, some hopeful news, some positive news about environment. And we expect that will affect positively collective efforts of all citizens. But I wondered whether this kind of a good news actually promote our efforts or not. So my research is about promoting collective climate action. Individual action takes a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and we need all citizens to take part in collective efforts. However, this is maybe the best example of social dilemma. Our short-term self-interest and long-term collective interest collide, and we oftentimes not participate or free ride. So my research is on how to promote and overcome this social dilemma free riding problem. So to promote collective action, actually, we need to overcome the notion that maybe my behavior is just a drop in the ocean. So people oftentimes think that their behavior doesn't really matter for these grand and distant environmental outcomes. So that's the main psychological mechanism that I'm dealing with in this study. To change this drop in the ocean notion, I use, or maybe a lot of research have used goal proximity effect. So as we approach to the goal, when we set a goal and we approach to that, people show more participation in crowdfunding, donation, and social movement. However, it has rarely been tested for environmental problems, so adopted goal proximity effect in environmental problems. So here I tested the impact of hopeful news, maybe it's negative effect of hope. So whether the hopeful news deter this goal proximity effect or not. Because there are researches that says high expectation actually negatively impact pro-environmental behaviors. And when the outcome is highly expected, people tend to reduce efforts, which is kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense in our daily situations, right? When the outcome is certain, especially with others, we tend to take less effort because it is almost certain. I don't need to take extra effort. I don't need to put my resources and times. I can just enjoy the outcomes, this kind of maybe thinking process. So research model Here is the research model. So as we progress or approach to the goal, it promotes collective action intention through perceived behavior impact, which means my behavior matters, my contribution matters. But this effect is deterred by hopeful news or COE manipulation, which I will elaborate later. For this research, actually, there needs to be some background knowledge about collective efforts. The reason why collective efforts is hard is that in collective, my own individual behavior does not necessarily lead to high collective performance or collective outcome, right? Unlike my individual healthier life goal, even though I put a lot of effort, it does not mean that other people do similar efforts as myself. And it does not necessarily guarantee collective outcome because this is so grand and distant. According to the expectancy theory, so there are contingencies in personal efforts. You see, like from individual efforts to individual performance and then individual outcome. However, there are more contingencies in collective efforts, which I showed you in the last picture. So it needs to deal with collective performance, collective outcome. So there are more complex contingencies. So according to the expectancy theory, motivation is a multiplicative function of these two instrumentalities. The first one, from individual effort to individual performance. So if I put my effort, go to gym 30 times, then I will lose my weight. That is the instrumentality one. Instrumentality two means individual performance to individual outcome, which means if I lose some weight, then it means I look better, I become more healthier, which is a healthy outcome. So in collective efforts, instrumentality one and instrumentality two looks like this. So I call perceived impact on performance and collective outcome expectancy. So for example, you can think that instrumentality one, for example, it is a kind of expectation that other people, we can collectively reduce, for example, 30 kilograms of plastic waste if I reduce 1 kilogram of plastic waste. So there is an assumption that other people would take their efforts for their individual performance, which will lead to better collective performance. That's instrumentality one. And instrumentality two means that if we collectively reduce 30 kilograms of plastic waste, that it will lead to the desirable environmental outcomes of our community. This will make our community cleaner and less polluted. So that's a collective outcome. So that's instrumentality two. So the first one is called perceived behavior impact. Second instrumentality is called collective outcome expectancy. So here is a hypothesis development. The first hypothesis is based on goal proximity hypothesis, which is well used in consumer behavior literatures. And this effect is due to perceived behavior impact. Since goal proximity increases a perceived impact of each individual behavior, and this leads to better participation in crowdfunding and donation and sustainable consumption and so on. So hypothesis two is the mediation effect of perceived behavior impact on goal proximity effect. However, there comes another hopeful news moderator, which I'm concentrated on this study. Collective outcome expectancy matters as well. Because collective outcome expectancy works in conjunction with the first instrumental, and it does moderating relation between predictor of ecological behavior. However, there are conflicting research on the effect of high hope. Some research says that high expectation increases, while other research says that it decreases pro-environmental behavior. So based on the negative side of the research, I tested the moderating effect of collective outcome expectancy between perceived behavioral impact and collective action intention. So this is 3 hypotheses that I developed, and I did 3 studies, which is a collective action, all of these collective actions. For example, the first one is 10,000 local residents aims to achieve 20,000 numbers of using multi-use cup instead of disposable plastic cups. This is scenario-based experiment. Second study is about 10,000 local residents trying to achieve $100,000 donation amount. And third, 1,000 local residents trying to achieve $10,000 crowdfunding project goal. So all these pro-environmental behaviors in collective settings. So this is the image of experiment, study 1. So collectively, we achieved 20,000 times of using this QR code instead of using disposable plastic cups to reduce plastic and to make our community cleaner. So I manipulated goal proximity through this 30% and 55%. And study 2, in a donation scenario, I manipulated 5% and 95% in collective goal of achieving $100,000 with 10,000 local residents for a cleaner community. In study 3, I tested crowdfunding. Here again, 5% and 95% I manipulated goal proximity. And in all these 3 studies, I manipulated collective outcome expectancy through hopeful news or negative news. I used this news article to manipulate people's hope or collective outcome expectancy. So this article says that international community and well-known scientists are pessimistic about solving climate crisis or optimistic about solving it to manipulate people's hope, people's collective outcome expectancy, high and low. So I'll go into detail of each study. In study 1, I tested multi-use cup usage by manipulating 30% and 50% goal proximity. So manipulation check, goal proximity, well done. And negative news and positive news about the climate crisis, I successfully manipulated collective outcome expectancy. So it's okay to run the Hayes model. So hypothesis 1 was supported. Mediation effect was also supported. And moderated mediation effect was supported, marginally supported. If you see this graph, so as perceived behavior impact increases, people's intention, collective action intention increases. However, this effect is deteriorated by 2, hopeful manipulation, which means positive news about the climate crisis. So actually, it deters the effect. Study 2, the same result. Manipulation check. Hypothesis 1 supported, 2 supported, and hypothesis 3 also supported. Again, you see this cross, which means negative effect of hopeful news on goal proximity effect. And for the last study 3, again, manipulation check. Hypothesis 1 supported, 2 supported. However, hypothesis 3 was not supported in here. Even though slope was seen as slightly different, I did not see a significant effect. Even though it seems like there's some negative effect of hopeful news, which is a hope manipulation. So moderated mediation only was valid for study 1 and 2, not for study 3, which means that negative effect of hopeful news does not deter collective action in terms of purchase behavior. However, I can explain this based on prior literature, since citizenship behavior and donation behavior are only for public purposes, right? That these are only for protecting the environment, while sustainable purchase are motivated by both personal and public purposes. So, which means that maybe hopeful news deters the goal proximity effect only for public purposes in public purpose pro-environmental behavior. So in conclusion, people are more motivated to participate in collective action as the collective goal approaches. This is because people feel that their behavior having more impact. However, hopeful news can deter this effect. This effect only for pro-environmental behavior for public purposes, not for private purposes. So practical contribution to promote collective action for climate crisis, we need to set a concrete numeric performance goal to give a sense of goal progress rather than just urging them to participate. And second point is that make people believe that we are getting closer to the goal. It makes people feel that there are some goal progress. And three, make individual stakeholders believe that your contribution matters because it increases perceived behavior contribution impact, which is a core mediator, psychological mechanism or mediator of this study. More importantly, and for the last, be cautious on the hopeful message that it is highly expected. If we put this positive news or hopeful news, then the previously designed effect of goal proximity effect can be deterred since there is an interaction effect. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.